Greetings, fellow traditionalist Catholics. This is Sergio Becerra II, and welcome back to my channel. So, on May 8th, 2025, Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost was elected as the new quote unquote Supreme Roman Pontiff and took the name quote unquote Pope Leo XIV. As of Sunday, May 18th, 2025, he had his so called inaugural Mass and being sworn in as the new quote unquote Pope. Cardinal Prevost, a member of the heretical Vatican II sect, already now labeled by traditionalists such as uh, Brother Peter Dimond of VaticanCatholic.com as another Vatican II anti-pope. So I'm going to get into his background before we take things a little further. So I'm going to read off from my phone from Wikipedia regarding Leo XIV. So before I read, here's this picture. If you can see clearly, okay. So let's begin. Pope Leo XIV, born Robert Francis Prevost, September 14th, 1995, is head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City-State. He was elected in the 2025 Papal Conclave as the successor to Pope Francis, another anti-pope. Now, let me scroll down a little bit. Now, Prevost is actually the very first American pope in history of the church. Well, as me and Vatican Catholic have said, the Vatican II sect is not really the Catholic Church; it's an end times counter church, a counterfeit church claiming to be Catholic, which uh, it is not part of the true Catholic Church. So let me read it. Born in Chicago, Illinois, and raised in a nearby suburb, Prevost became a friar of the Order of St. Augustine in 1977. Yes, he did become a monk of the Order of St. Augustine. Spent most of his adult life there before being elected, and was ordained a priest in 1982. Well, since he was ordained a priest in the Vatican II sect, his ordination into the church is not valid because of Vatican II. So therefore, illegitimate priest, illegitimate bishop, illegitimate cardinal, and of course an illegitimate pope, which I will discuss later on. His service includes extensive missionary work in Peru in the 1980s and 1990s, where he served as a parish pastor, diocesan official, seminary teacher, and administrator, elected prior general of the Order of St. Augustine from 2001 to 2013. He returned to Peru as Bishop of Chiclayo from 2015 to 2023. In 2023, Pope Francis appointed him prefect of the Dicastery for Bishops and president of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America, and made him a cardinal the same year. So, Dicastery for Bishops means like he was put in charge nominating who is to be a bishop throughout the whole world. But therefore, every bishop that was consecrated under Francis and now Prevost at the time, uh, therefore, their consecrations are invalid, just like the ordinations of the priesthood of the Vatican II sect. Let us go on. As a cardinal, he emphasized synodality, missionary dialogue, and engagement with social and technological challenges. He also engaged with issues such as climate change, global migration, church governance, and human rights. He expressed alignment with the reforms of the Second Vatican Council. So therefore, He's pro Vatican II, and he's already admitted Vatican II is staying all the way. He said this shortly after being elected to the papacy, which he is not qualified to be on there, especially the other Vatican II anti popes like Francis. But no doubt, he's aligned himself with the policies and, of course, still keeping Francis's agenda still intact in his so-called teachings. A United States citizen by birth, Leo XIV is the first pope to have been born in North America, the first to hold Peruvian citizenship, having been naturalized in 2015. So even though Prevost, born in the United States in Chicago, Illinois, but had dual citizenship in Peru because he was a monk of the Augustinian order and been there for a while, especially being made bishop. Okay, where was I? Having been neutralized in 2015, the second pope from the Americas after his predecessor, Francis. Well, Francis was from Argentina, but of South America. Well, of course, it's still part of the Americas. After his predecessor, Francis, and the first from the order of Saint Augustine. His papal name was inspired by Pope Leo XIII. Leo XIII, a real pope, who developed modern Catholic social teaching amid the Second Industrial Revolution. Leo XIV believes that ongoing Fourth Industrial Revolution, particularly advances in artificial intelligence and robotics, possess new challenges for the defense of human dignity, justice, and labor. So, from what I've understood in some other YouTube videos, why he took the name Leo. Well, Leo XIII was basically against the Industrial Revolution, so it sounds like what Leo XIV is saying, we have now entered like a fourth well well fourth industrial revolution. So must have been, well, we've had other advances in technology over the past century and all that. So yeah, Leo XIV believes who developed modern. I'm sorry. I'm just reading back what's said right here. Wasn't smart. Who developed modern Catholic social teachings amid the Second Industrial Revolution? Okay, Leo. Okay, so yeah, thinking that modern technology today, like artificial intelligence and robotics, even other technologies, whatever's out there in advance, probably doesn't. He probably doesn't agree with, even though we're now an advanced world today, for the defense of human dignity, justice, and labor. So he believes us humans should be working like hard by hand, is what Prevost is trying to say here. Early life, family, and education. Okay, background and ancestry. Robert Francis Prevost was born on September 14th, 1955. So if he was born in the mid 50s, no doubt he was baptized in the true Catholic faith way before Vatican II. So therefore, baptized in the true Catholic faith during the final years of Pius XII, but his ordination under Vatican II is invalid. So therefore, he fell into apostasy, of course, no doubt, started spreading heresies like Francis and many others. Robert Francis Prevost was born on September 14th, 1955, at Mercy Hospital in the Bronzeville neighborhood of Chicago, Illinois, on the city's south side. His mother, Mildred Agnes Prevost, was born in Chicago into a mixed race family of Louisiana Creole descent that had moved to the city from the 7th Ward of New Orleans. She graduated from DePaul University with a bachelor's degree in library science in 1947 and worked as an educator and librarian. His father, Louis Maurice Prevost, was also a Chicago native, having grown up in the Hyde Park neighborhood. He was of Italian and French descent and a United States Navy veteran of World War II. So his father, Louis, born in Chicago and served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. Okay, that's good to know. Who first commanded an infantry landing craft in the Normandy Normandy landings and later participated in Operation Dragon. Oh wait a minute, sorry. Let me repeat that. And later participated in Operation Dragoon in southern France. I thought I said dragon, but dragoon. There's two O's in here, and this word sounds like it's saying dragon. Dragoon, Dragoon. I thought it said dragon. He later became superintendent of Brookwood School District 167 in Glenwood, Illinois. Prevost has two older brothers, Louis Martin and John Joseph. Okay, so here's a picture of Prevost's childhood home in Dalton, Illinois. So that's it right here in this photo. So that's the 14th home. Known as Rob to his family and Bob to friends as an adult, Prevost was Prevost was raised in Dalton, Illinois, a suburb bordering the far south side. He grew up in the parish of St. Mary of the Assumption in nearby Riverdale, where he went to school, sang in the choir, and served as an altar boy. Prevost aspired to the priesthood from a young age and would play act the mass at home with his brothers. From 1969 to 1973, Prevost attended St. Augustine Seminary High School, a minor seminary near Saugatuck, Michigan. His brother John recalled how, from the end of eighth grade on, and especially after joining the Order of St. Augustine, until their later adulthood when leave allowed them to reconnect, Prevost was hardly at home or with their family at the Augustinian Seminary. He earned a letter of commendation for academic excellence, consistently appeared on the honor roll, served as yearbook editor-in-chief, and was secretary of the student council and a member of the National Honor Society. He also participated in speech and debate, competing in congressional debate. Most of his classmates left for other options besides the priesthood. Out of several dozen who entered, Prevost was one of only 13 students in the class to graduate. Okay, now his university years. In 1973, Prevost was going to attend Palatine College in an Augustinian seminary in Olympia Fields, Illinois, but it closed that same year. He promptly enrolled in Villanova University, an Augustinian college located near Philadelphia, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics in 1977. At Villanova, he took elective courses in Hebrew and Latin, which was seen as unusual because he was not majoring in theology. Read the writings of St. Augustine and discussed the work of Karl Rahner with other future Catholic priests. Prevost also worked as a cemetery groundskeeper at St. Denis Roman Catholic Church in Havertown, Pennsylvania, while studying at Villanova. He returned to his father's native Hyde Park to obtain a Master of Divinity from Catholic Theological Union in 1982 and taught physics and math at St. Rita of Cassia High School in Chicago's Wrightwood neighborhood during his studies. He earned a licentate of canon law in 1984, followed by a Doctor of Canon Law degree in 1987, both from the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas in Rome. During this period, he lived in the house of the Order of St. Augustine for the first time and worked on his Italian language skills. His doctoral thesis was a study of the role of the local prior in the Order of St. Augustine. Villanova University awarded him an honorary Doctor of Humanities degree in 2014. Okay, I'm not going to read a lot of this because it's going to take me forever. So now we're going to fast forward to his time as Bishop of Chiclayo in Peru. This is where it gets more serious. On November 3rd, 2014, Pope Francis appointed Prevost as the apostolic administrator of the Diocese of Chiclayo in northern Peru and the titular bishop of Sofar. He was consecrated on December 12, 2014 at St. Mary's Cathedral in Chiclayo by Archbishop James Green, Apostolic Nuncio to Peru. On September 26, 2015, he was named Bishop of Chiclayo, as required by a 1980 pact between the Holy See and Peru. Prevost became a naturalized Peruvian citizen before becoming bishop. On July 13, 2019, Prevost was appointed a member of the Congregation for the Clergy, and on April 15, 2020, he became apostolic administrator of Callao. On November 21, 2020, he joined the Congregation for Bishops within the Episcopal Conference of Peru. He served on the Permanent Council from 2018 to 2020 and was elected president of its Commission for Education and Culture. Also contributing to Caritas Peru. While bishop, he established a diocesan commission on integral ecology and appointed a woman to lead it. Prevost had a private audience with Pope Francis on March 1st, 2021, sparking speculation about a new role in Chicago or Rome. Prevost has been accused of covering up sexual abuse during his time in Chiclayo. Okay, yeah, this is where it gets more serious. In 2022, alleged victims of abuse in 2007 by priests Ricardo Yesquin Pivia and Eleuterio Vasquez Gonzalez said the Diocese of Chiclayo failed to investigate their case. The Diocese of Chiclayo stated that Prevost followed proper procedures, met with Ana Maria Quispe and her sisters in April 2022 to personally attend the victims, encouraged them to initiate a civil action, and initiated a canonical investigation, the results of which he sent to the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. The sisters stated in 2024 that no full penal canonical investigation occurred, and an investigation by America Televisión concluded that the church's investigation was not thorough. Speaking to the Peruvian newspaper La República, while Bishop of Chiclayo, Prevost said, "If you are a victim of sexual abuse by a priest, report it. We reject cover-ups and secrecy. that causes a lot of harm. We have to help people who have suffered due to wrongdoing. Journalist Pedro Salinas, who investigated and exposed crimes committed by members of the now defunct Soda Christiani Vitae, including sexual, physical, or psychological abuse, has argued that Prevost always expressed his support for the victims and was one of the most reliable clerical authorities in Peru, leading Pope Francis to select him as prefect of bishops. Salinas has written that some of the Peruvian clerics linked to the Sodalitium sought to attack and defame Prevost in retaliation for his role in the Sodalitium dissolution by Pope Francis, due to its sexual abuse scandals, as well as Prevost being near to Francis's political theology. Okay, so Prevost, which I wanted to get to, mostly what I've just read. Now, he has been accused of covering up sexual abuse allegations on young girls, and that no investigation was ever taken care of, never initiated, never started, which is what I'm trying to say. But from what I've understood from the beginning, he did open an investigation, but I think it was with local authorities. So yeah, that's what it's saying right here. Has been accused of covering up sexual abuses. I know we've heard stories all over within the church itself, especially here in the United States, where priests are abusing young children, boys and girls. And of course, there's always cover-ups. I know we I live in California, and there's like one cardinal from Los Angeles. I always forget his name, but he's always been accused of covering up for priests, and he was not even allowed to be near the Vatican, not even near uh, the the last conclave that had that recently that the church just recently had. I mean, the Vatican just recently had. I mean, you get what I'm saying. I always forget his name, but so the point matter is, let me just say this. Now, I've already heard from Brother Peter Dimond, a Vatican Catholic, from his previous video regarding Francis's death. All of the Vatican II cardinals are unqualified to the papacy because of Vatican II. They accept Vatican II, therefore they're heretics and apostates. They accept the heretical teachings of Vatican II. So therefore, as said already from Peter Dimond, and now with me, they're not qualified for the papacy. Therefore, Leo the 14th is nothing more than a usurper to the chair of Peter. He has no right to sit on the papal throne. Therefore, since Pius the 12th, since the death of Pius the 12th up to now, and now with Francis and Leo, we're still in the state of Sedevacantist. The seat is vacant. The chair of Peter is vacant. It is still um there's no one sitting really on the throne. We don't have an actual legitimate pope right now. So even in some of the Vatican Catholic videos that I've watched, we have had like more than 60 years without a true pope. Even mentioning even in the Bible about the story of King David, how there was no king of Israel like after King David's time for 500 years. So we don't have an actual pope because of Vatican II. Therefore, Leo the 14th is nothing more than a Vatican II heretical anti-pope. So therefore, I do not recognize Leo the 14th as a true pope. I don't so therefore I don't recognize John the 23rd. I don't recognize Paul the 6th. I don't recognize John Paul the First. I don't recognize John Paul II. I don't recognize Benedict the 16th. I don't recognize Francis, and now I don't recognize Leo the 14th as true popes. As I've said in the past, I only recognize the true popes from St. Peter to Pius the 12th. And as I have said, I'm a Sedevacantist traditionalist Catholic. I do not follow Vatican II. I do not recognize the Vatican II anti-popes. Therefore, every cardinal within this past conclave, we're all ineligible. We're all ineligible, unqualified. Even if you put a conservative traditionalist on the chair of Peter, but because of Vatican II, they don't count. Now, I'm not trying to bring in politics in here, but from what I've understood from the very beginning, that Prevost, who is an American, born in Chicago, even though the state of Illinois is a deep blue liberal, a deep blue liberal state. Robert Francis Prevost is, however, a registered Republican, like me, but however, I'm considered as a constitutional conservative, even though registered as a Republican. But Prevost is a Republican as an American. However, he is liberal as a Catholic. So therefore, he's a moderate. So he's like in between. Now, Prevost has already admitted already to the following. He's going to keep Francis's policies intact, therefore restricting the Latin Mass, the keeping intact the quote unquote blessings for same-sex couples, sodomites. Of course, keeping Vatican II intact. That's no surprise. I forget other things that Francis has admitted. I can't, man. Oh God, I had it in my head. I'm sorry, I had it all in my head. But one thing is for sure, like Francis and Leo the 14th, they are non-Catholic, non-Catholic anti-popes. Now, even though both Francis and Leo have been baptized in the true Catholic faith, but because of Vatican II, their ordinations in the priesthood, even up to now with the papacy, are all invalid because of Vatican II. So we have nothing more than it. So what I'm trying to say is both Francis and Prevost are non-Catholics, even though baptized in the true Catholic faith. But in the end, they're actually, but because Vatican II is an end times counter church, which it is because we're living in the end times, they are nothing more but acting as but they're nothing more but Protestants because everything's being. I always have the word. I always forget the word. It starts with a C. Contradicting. They contradict the true Catholic faith, but in the end they're non-Catholic, but really they're Protestants. Oh, now I remember. Yeah, so like Francis, restrict the Latin Mass, continuing with the so-called blessings to sodomites, and also reject the death penalty. I know brother Peter Diamond has talked about the death penalty, quoting Pope Leo X, a true pope, saying it's okay for the faithful to support the death penalty. That includes the execution of heretics. Because Leo X had said this, I don't remember if it was in one of his teachings or when in his papal bull when excommunicating Martin Luther for going against Rome, because Luther had said that the death penalty is wrong, especially when burning heretics. While Leo X has already come out and said it's okay for the faithful to support executions of anyone who commits any kind of serious crime, especially heresies. So Francis and Leo XIV, not real Catholics, but more Protestant, and therefore their pontificates are illegitimate. They're not qualified for the papacy. They're both anti-popes, especially from the very beginning with John the 23rd up to now with Leo. So that is about it right there. At the Well, here's the thing. I was watching the live coverage of the conclave through my phone while coming home from work, while taking the bus home. I'm not going to say where I work because that's a personal matter. But I was watching the live coverage on Twitter of the conclave because I was already hearing reports that white smoke already had occurred. People were already standing out on St. Peter's Square waiting for the announcement. Even though I heard the Cardinal Deacon, or I always forget the title of the Cardinal, which is whether it's Proto Cardinal or Cardinal Deacon, I always forget, that made the announcement. Yeah, I always forget the title of that Cardinal who makes the announcement. I always forget it's either Cardinal Deacon or Proto Cardinal that makes the announcement. I did hear the name Roberto. I'm thinking, oh, okay, Roberto. I'm thinking an Italian Pope this time, but I couldn't make out the last name because of the Cardinal's accent. But I did hear the name Leo the 14th in Latin. So by the time I got home, I was already looking up his background, and so therefore we have the very first American Pope. Well, Pope, quote unquote Pope, but really an anti-Pope. I thought it was another Italian. Not another Italian. I mean, the first Italian. I meant to say the first Italian since anti-Pope John Paul the First. So, so that's a first for those of us here in the United States. But either way, Leo the 14th does not count as Pope. He's an anti-Pope. Now, I know I've said in some of my past videos regarding Francis's death, and then me talking about how I'm a Sedevacantist. Now, I brought some examples. If I were Pope, I know I said I would probably take the name Gregory the 17th. I know if I ever had like any opportunity to be given to take the chair of Peter. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm just saying. By example, even though I'm not a priest, if I had any chance, I would reverse all of Vatican II, get the real church back on track, and take the name Gregory the 17th. But I've had some thought for a while. Maybe the name Gregory isn't meant for me. Since, of course, my name is Sergio, and of course, uh, my first name is both of Spanish and Italian origin, but it does derive from the Latin Sergius. And of course, there always have been four popes. There have already been four popes with the name Sergius already, so I guess it's better to stick with my name and just take the name Sergius the Fifth because I realized the name Sergius. Well, actually, the name Sergio, my name, which derives from the Latin origin Sergius, means servant or protector. And as a traditionalist, I want to protect the true teachings and the ways of the true Catholic faith. So I want to be a protector. I want to defend those teachings. So I guess the name Sergius the Fifth would fit better for me. I'm just saying. I know some of my ideas may sound crazy if I was given the golden opportunity to become pope, even though I'm not a priest, but I'm just saying if I ever had that opportunity given by God to become pope, just saying, even though it sounds crazy, like I have said. But yeah, so the chair of Peter's still vacant. We don't have a true pope, despite Leo the 14th being a usurper to the throne, to the chair of Peter. As long as Vatican II is still in play, still existing, nothing will change. I don't think we'll ever get a true pope for a long time until the second coming of Christ. Lastly, before I go, I want to apologize on some mistakes I said in my last two videos regarding the prophecies of Saint Malachi on some of the popes and anti-popes he had prophesied. There were some things I did say that may have sounded kind of confusing, even though Francis was not going to be the last true quote unquote pope, and that his Latin motto would be Pietrus Romanus, Peter the Roman. I may have said some things that kind of said I may have said some things that were kind of confusing and mixed up some kind of way, but I apologize within those last two videos, even though Malachi's prediction was never true about Francis being the last so-called quote unquote pope, and that that uh that a post-death apocalypse would occur. Well, even though that Vatican Catholic did talk about Malachi's prophecies, but I may have misspoken some things in a confusing way, so I apologize regarding saying Malachi and his prophecies, and that Francis's motto was not Pietrus Romanus. I apologize for that. So, therefore, by prophecy slash rumors, that if a true pope were to be elected and he took the name Peter II, therefore his motto would be Pietrus Romanus, Peter the Roman. That means it would indicate the second coming of Christ, which is what I'm trying to say. So I apologize on those confusing mixed confusing slash mixed comments I made regarding Saint Malachi's prophecies. So that's that. We have another anti-pope of the heretical Vatican II sect, and we don't know when we're going to get a true pope. And and actually I want to thank VaticanCatholic.com in their latest video that was just uploaded on Saturday regarding Leo the 14th election. Now they covered more ground than I've tried here, so I'll leave their link in the description so you can check out their channel, and hopefully they see mine because I'm not stealing what they've already said already. I'm just quoting what they have said. That's all. But I do give them credit, even though I would have said this first, but I didn't get the chance shortly after Leo's election. But here I am, and Vatican Catholic has already beat me to the punch before I even said anything. I didn't get the chance after Leo's so-called election. So that's it. So tell me what you think in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification for future updates. All right, that takes care of that. So I hope to see you in the near future. Take care now. Bye.